Okay, so what we're going to do today is now that we have a finished restaurant, hopefully you have your structure built, your tables, your chairs, your design scheme kind of figured out. We want to do two things. First of all, I want to show you how to add scenes so you can do kind of like a flyby tour of your design and you can see it from different angles, kind of go around the outskirts, go inside and see everything that you've built. The second thing will be an animation. So everyone's model should have some kind of animation in it, whether it's a door opening, which is what I'm going to show you today. Maybe you design like a plate of food on a table that goes like from full to empty, or a cup moving or something. I don't know. But you need to think of something that's going to fit in your restaurant. So I'm going to show you a little bit today about how to make like a door that might kind of open on its hinges. So first of all, if you see, I have a restaurant. I literally threw it together in about 30 seconds, but I have my walls, my door, my inside kind of figured out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to make a door on top of my empty door frame, basically, and one that can also then move out. So first of all, make sure that your building is a component. I mean, you should have already done that, but all the individual pieces, including the building itself, should be a separate component. That way when I start to attach an extra door onto it, it's not going to get stuck. So it is a component. I'm good to go. First of all, what I'm going to do is kind of orbit around so I can see my door frame. Now, because this is a component already, I'm just going to draw a door on top of my empty frame. So I'm going to draw from the top corner to the other top corner, pull it down so my rectangle fills that space. Now for me, it might not be the most elegant way to do this, but I'm just going to pull it out a little bit. I don't know, a door might be, I don't know, I'm just going to say 2 inches for the purpose of this. And really, that doesn't give me a whole lot of space. So just for this kind of demonstration, I'm going to pull it out a little bit more. So maybe just so you can see it, let's just put it right there. You can make yours an actual door size. So again, I'm going to triple click my door. Because it's not a part of the building, I'm going to make this a separate component. You need to do this. So when you're making an animation, all the pieces need to be in a separate component. So I'm going to go ahead and make that a component. Now, what I would imagine my animation to look like would be a door that's going to open on the corner and then kind of show its progress as it opens. So what I'm going to do, kind of the same way that we moved the tables across the room where you'd hit M, hit Control to do like a copy move, I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to do a copy rotate. Now we kind of showed you, again, this in class with kind of a circular pattern, maybe for the light posts, but I'm going to do a copy rotate on my door hinge. And when I say hinge, I mean the top left, kind of where the little, the hinge would go, where the door swings back and forth. So what I'm going to do, and this is where it is kind of important to get yourself at a good angle. So I want to be able to see that top corner of my building. I also want to see the entire kind of radius that this thing is going to float out on, okay? So I'm going to get myself to about right here. I'm going to hit Q for my rotate tool, okay? And I want to get my mouse so that it's on the top of the door, okay? So I want it to be kind of at that blue angle. I don't want to rotate on the vertical surface. That's going to like sling the door up. I want to rotate it so that if this is the top, it's kind of swinging out, okay? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get my mouse kind of in place. I'm going to hit Control, which again adds a little plus sign. And then when it's blue, when it's on that horizontal plane, and I have my plus sign, my Control button pushed, I'm going to click once on the corner, the hinge, if you will. I'm going to drag my mouse then to the end of my door, okay? I'm going to click a second time. And you can see I'm making a copy of my door on that hinge point, okay, that center rotation. So for me, I'm just going to kind of click it into place at this 90-degree angle. And then just like you might do the tables, without touching anything else, I'm going to type in divided by 5, okay? Depending on how exact you want your animation to look, I guess you could do more, but I think 5 is a pretty reasonable amount, okay? So I have my door animation kind of figured out, but you'll see, well, it doesn't look like an animation. It looks like there's just 5 pieces. Here's where the next part comes in. So please kind of pay attention to the right-hand side of the screen here, okay? First of all, you have this thing over here called a tray. This has all of your little menu options, your pull downs, where you can see all the components, the materials, all that stuff. If you don't see that, we can turn it on under the window. But what you don't see in your tray that we need is a thing called the layer tool, okay, the layer tray. We don't need to see anything besides the entity info, and then we need to go in and turn on the layer tab. So if I go under window, because it's called a tray, I need to go to manage tray. I need to say what I want in my tray over here. So I'm going to do that. It's called the default tray, okay? I'm going to turn on layers and scenes. So you just click on those two buttons. You'll notice over here that the layer and the scene tabs pop up. Now again, I only really need to be looking at entity info, layer, and scenes right now, so you can close all, or kind of minimize all these other ones. If you don't see any of this stuff, you could go to Windows and add a new tray and then say the pieces that you want. So in this case, layers, scenes, and entity info. And you could have a new tray that pops up. But since I already had one, I'm just going to manage the one I already had. Okay. Now, what you'll notice as I click through all my pieces, all of the entity info doesn't really change because I just made copies of what I've got. So what I want to do, first of all, is think about this in terms of layers. If I want my animation to work, I need each one to kind of hide while the next one goes. So my door is going to go boom, 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 and it's going to look like it's swinging open. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a couple layers. So in this layer tab, I'm going to do plus, 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 plus. Let's do another one. So 6, okay? Because we can't really mess with the original layer. That's kind of for everything. So I have 5 doors over here, and I'm going to have each of them on layer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? So my first door over here, kind of the one on the wall. If I click it, notice up here under the entity info, I can change what layer it is. Because I just made those 6 layers, now I can assign my components to a separate layer. So I'm going to say my first door is layer 1. Second door, I'm going to click it, and I'm going to go select layer 2. And just down the line. Third door is layer 3. Fourth is layer 4. 5. And then layer 6. So now all the doors are on a separate layer. Okay? Now if you look back on the layer tab over here, you can turn them on and off. Maybe you're starting to get an idea of what we're going to do. So I can turn on or off layers to hide them temporarily, forever, whatever you want to do. So those of you that have asked, do we need to make a roof? You could now assign it to a separate layer. That way you can kind of have a finished model with the roof. And then if you're zooming in or you want to see like an eagle eye view of it, you can turn off that layer temporarily and then kind of have that viewpoint available. Okay, so I've got my layers. I have my doors all assigned to different layers. So what do we need to do now? Hopefully you kind of watched those tutorials that we talked about in class where you can add different scenes. So if I wanted to maybe start right here and zoom my way into my building and kind of have the doors open for me as I go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, first of all, I don't want to have these doors open like in that weird array. I want to just have my first door ready to go, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to View, go to Animations, and I'm going to add a scene, okay? I added my first in my waypoint as I'm going to zoom through. You'll notice, by the way, that in my Scenes tab, that popped up. And there's more options to edit in there, okay? So that's my first scene. Now, I want my door to look like it's opening. So I'm going to hide that first door and turn on my second layer. And you can see on my model, it looks like that door is starting to creak open. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit, maybe reset my camera a tiny bit. I'm going to go back to View. I'm going to do Animation, add a second scene. Okay, so now we have our second door. I'm going to turn that off, turn on my third door. Change my camera a little bit. Maybe I'm going to zoom. Now I'm going to do the same thing. View, Animation, add scene. Repeat the process. Layer 4, I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. I don't know, make it a little artsy or something. We're getting closer to the door. Maybe I'm still a little bit too close because I want to be able to see the rest of them. Add another animation, View, Animation, add scene. Hide that one, turn on the next step. Zoom in a little bit more. Do the same thing. And then finally we have our last our last scene here where that last door is open. We'll do one more scene. And I have my door animation opening up. And then I could say I want to go inside and kind of sit at a table. Maybe you have some plates or a menu that you've designed that you want to add. Then you can continue your scenes in here. So I'll add one more scene. Now, if I click back to my first scene, I can then go to View, Animation, and play it. Takes a second to kind of think about it. And you can see it's zooming in and flying down to where I put my scene markers. The door is kind of opening as it goes. Now it's not very fast. I can change that, but it has a basic animation. And that's all that we really need you to do. If I wanted to change my speed, I could go under Animations, I could go to Settings, and I could play with my timings in here. I still probably want to have these scene transitions in, but maybe I want, I don't know, scene transition of 0.5, a scene delay, I don't know. Let's just try it and see what happens. Let's play it again. You'll notice it goes a little faster now, but there's still like a scene in between time. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to play with it a little bit more and change my settings. Scene delay, maybe I want that to be, I don't know. I don't know if it lets you go beyond or lower than 1. Anyway, you can play with it. It doesn't need to be perfect right now, but eventually you can make some complicated animations when it gets time for your Shark Tank designs. For example, last year we had people making windmills that were making the blades all spin in a circle. You could do the same thing if you wanted to have plates with different foods rotating around a table or something, where you just kind of make copies of it, make 4 different layers or something, and then rotate them around, hide the certain layers, and keep one on at a time. So there's a lot of different options you can do. But think of some kind of animation that might fit your building, even if it's as simple as a door opening, and practice it. That's the goal. Your restaurant should have some kind of animation, a finished design, a theme, all your inside tables set up, and a tour. And I would say that you should probably have about 20 or so stops along the tour that zooms around, shows us outside, gives us a nice 360 view, goes inside, and lets us see all the things that you should have made over the last couple weeks. So hopefully that helps. Animations can be pretty powerful. You just have to make sure that you understand the layers and turning them on and off. Hopefully that helps. Please let us know if you have any questions. See ya.